Okay, good morning, everybody. Just want to first thank you for joining our webinar here this morning. My name is Eric Mueller. I am a general partner of Solar Farmland. Um, Today, we're going to go through and talk about 721 exchange for farmland, what it is, how it works within our Legacy Farmland Fund. Ethan will go through some of the benefits of doing a 721 exchange into our fund. And then we'll talk a little bit about how this can be a tool for you as a broker and farm manager to not only maintain your business, but to grow it. And so we're excited to go through and talk about, again, 721 exchanges here this morning. Before we do that, Ethan, do you want to hit?
Yep.
One thing we do need to do as a general housekeeping item is show our disclaimer. If you'd like to read through this in more detail, you're more than welcome to. We'll be sending this recording out to all the folks on here this morning, and so you'll have this, but this is something that we do need to show. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about SOAR investment partners. And before I do that, I guess I have not introduced my two other hosts here this morning. So sorry about that, guys. I almost forgot. We have Amy Denny on our call here this morning. She is our director of marketing, does a fantastic job for us. And Ethan Branscombe, who is our director of acquisitions. And so Ethan and I will kind of go through this presentation. And once we're done with the presentation, what we really want to do is make it as interactive as possible with you, our guests. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and we will pull those up after our presentation here and make sure we get all your questions answered. So who we are SOAR Farmland, and SOAR Farmland is a subsidiary of SOAR Investment Partners. So SOAR Investment Partners has several different real estate funds and investment funds. Two of them being SOAR Farmland Fund, which is a cash equity farmland fund that we started about 5 years ago. That is a fund that raises capital and purchases farmland throughout the country, U.S. row crop farmland. And then the second fund is what we're going to talk about here today. It's called Legacy Farmland Fund, which is a 721 exchange investment fund. So our team as a whole, we've got a combined 50 years of experience. Our folks have got a lot of knowledge and a lot of relationships out in the field. So we're excited to bring this 721 exchange Legacy Farmland Fund to the world. We think it's a very, very useful tool for many different family situations. And so we'll roll right into it. So what is a 721 exchange? It's been around since 1954. It's been primarily used in the commercial real estate world. And when we kind of went through and we're seeing a need for estate planning and a solution for farmland families to be able to possibly pass their assets down to their heirs or gift their assets. There really hasn't been an easy way to do that rather than just simply doing that pass down or selling up the property and then divvying up the cash. So 721 exchange has been around for a long time, 1954. What it does, it is a transfer. It's simply a transfer of the land into a partnership. And so instead of, and I'm sure many of you have heard of a 1031 exchange. And this is similar to a 1031 exchange, except for the way that it is conducted. So in a 1031 exchange, you sell your property, you have 45 days to identify a replacement property, and then 180 days to close on that replacement property in order to defer your capital gains tax. With a 721 exchange, we simply transfer that land into our partnership, Legacy Farmland Fund. And then in return for that transfer, that owner will receive shares of the partnership. And so instead of being a active farm owner, you become a shareholder of all the assets in the fund. And then with those shares, they're very flexible. You can retain them and continue receiving the income. You can gift them. You can separate them out amongst heirs. Again, or you can plug them into your estate plan, a charitable remainder trust. There's all sorts of things you can do then with those shares. So it really liquefies, I guess, or gives you the ability to liquefy your asset much easier than selling it itself. So as you compare 1031 exchange, you can see there's several commonalities, but there are a couple different benefits to a 721 exchange. And a couple of them actually are what I think are some of the more important ones is when you do make that transfer into the fund, you diversify your assets. So you no longer own that particular farm, but you are a shareholder in several different farms. So that diversification, I think, is a real good risk mitigator. And then again, as far as the step up in basis, you do get a step up in basis with those units. So upon death of the original contributor into the fund, those units would get a step up in basis, much like it would as if you continued owning a farm. And then I think one of the real key benefit for a 721 exchange is that replacement property in a 1031 exchange has time parameters. And with a 721 exchange, there is no time parameter. So the process, and Ethan will talk a little bit more about it as you go through, but it's a pretty simple process. Probably take anywhere between 45 and 60 days to make the transaction happen. So a lot of different benefits that a 1031 exchange does not give you. So again, when you do a 721 exchange, you do defer those capital gains, which can lead to a huge savings in your capital gains tax event. It keeps all the capital invested. So when you make that transfer, 100% of the value of that farm minus fees are going to be invested into the fund. And so you do retain that total 100% capital investment. And then also you do get, again, that deferment of your capital gains tax. Ethan, if you want to kind of roll into some of the benefits and qualities of Legacy Farmland Fund, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Like Eric said, my name's Ethan Branscombe, and I oversee the acquisitions and portfolio management for both the Farmland Fund and the 721 Exchange Fund. So getting into the diversification of the fund, the benefits with that, and kind of going back to, a lot of questions that come up are why hasn't the 721 Exchange been used in farmland before? Or, why is this just now becoming a thing that, landowners could always do a 721 exchange into farmland, but there's never been a place or an avenue to do that, such as creating this Legacy Farmland Fund. You have to go into a partnership, which is why the fund is set up that way. But what this does, creating this fund structure for the exchanges to happen, is it creates a wide, diversified portfolio of farmland that landowners can now exchange into and be invested in for a long time. So you think about transitioning your asset from one property in one geographical location, probably doing maybe just a few crop types, and now investing into a fund that consists of properties all over the United States, whether it's the Southeast, the Delta, the Midwest, or the Pacific Northwest. You now have, really secure diversification, geography, crop types, tenants, different rental structures. It's just really a huge benefit to people that want to stay invested in the farmland, but also want to have, be diversified across the entire country. The only thing, one thing to note on this, it is row crop only. So we're not diversified into permanent plantings at this time with this fund. And people add a lot, no, other questions that come up are there certain places you won't go into or areas that this won't work? We're pretty agnostic on the region of the United States that we would go into. Obviously, we always are considering risks that are associated with certain areas, whether that's water risk or um, you know environmental risk. We wouldn't want to take in an asset that would be harmful to the fund. But as long as it's a row crop asset and we can structure a lease that works for the fund, then we're pretty agnostic to the area of the United States we would go into. So kind of how this works, it is a we have all the assets would be set up on cash rent structures. Typically, we set this up much like we do with our assets on our cash equity fund. So um, always want to have it on a cash rent just to get that stability and certainty of what those cash streams are going to look like back to the investors. But after you exchange your land into the fund, you now own those units, and those units receive quarterly dividends based on the cash income from the rents on those properties moving forward. The unit holder, there's really nothing that they have to do, no decisions on the farm or anything at that point. We manage the assets. We partner with farm managers in local areas to manage that property. And we, do all the decision making. Um, if there's ways to improve the property through capital improvements, we're looking to do that. And then as long as they own those units, they're going to receive the appreciation of those units and the income off of those. If what we require right now is a 1 year holding period, if for liquidity events on that. So if they have the units after a 1 year holding period, if they decided they want to liquidate, they could do that at that time. The fund will buy those units back to them. And that's how the cash flows of this fund works. So, when we set this up, we really saw a lot of benefits from estate planning. Farm families that have multiple heirs, or farms that have passed on to generations where people, maybe one person's moved back to the farm and other siblings have not. What Eric has seen, and one of the reasons that this sort of got started was seeing how the division of land across multiple heirs can create challenges and issues, family issues with that. The the beauty of this is that once the land gets exchanged, each heir can receive their units separately, and they can make their own independent decisions with those units that won't impact the other siblings or other owners of that land. So imagine a situation where a large farm has passed down to 4 kids. 3 kids want to sell. One kid that's there farming does not want to sell. Once the land gets exchanged, the kid that is still farming will have the right to farm that land. He'll get his units that he can hold on to and receive income off of. And then the other 3 kids can do whatever they want to. If they want to cash out, they can cash out. It won't impact the kid that's back on the farm farming. Or if they want to hang on to those units and stay invested in farmland, they can do that as well. So from a multiple, the flexibility options with this are extensive. One other thing from estate planning that comes up is accessing liquidity. If unit holders are older in their lifespan, or that you have parents that own these units, that they need to access liquidity for elder support care or retirement, it works a lot like a whole life insurance policy does, to where you can take the value of your units and you can leverage it with the fund, and the fund will, the fund will loan you money secured by your units as well if you need to access liquidity without selling it. So that's a great feature that I think is going to be a huge benefit on this fund. So this right here, this is something that this is not this has nothing to do so much with the 721 exchange or how it works. This is really features that we put within the fund to make sure that our mission is aligned with the landowners. And what we've done is, the fund cannot sell ground without written permission from the original contributor, so long as they still own those units. Where our goal is not to get land into the fund and then turn around and sell it. It's really to build up a big portfolio of farmland that's owned by the investors or the original landowners of that fund. You as the landowner, when doing the 721 exchange, you can designate a tenant of your choice to have the first right to lease that ground. That's a big benefit when you think about parents that want to make sure that their kids or their grandchildren get to stay on that farm and farm that ground. We also, one thing we do is make sure that the family's name is always connected to the land and the land that it's titled into. Um, you can establish a heir or someone to have the first right to repurchase that ground in the future if down the road a child is coming up and farming and that you want that land to go back to that kid. We can set that up. And then also reserve any hunting or recreational rights for the family to use as well. So here's a question, and we got probably just another 3 minutes before we open it up for Q&A on this, but I wanted to walk through this because this is something that comes up pretty frequently is, okay, how does it work with the share price and the asset value and what are you getting when you do the exchange? So I put this example in. Imagine the fund is at $50 million in net asset value currently. Currently, any units that are issued are $1,000 per unit. And so we just put up the example of a $5 million farm coming in. Okay, so at $1,000 per unit, that farmland owner receives 5,000 units into the fund, valued at $5 million. As the fund continues to grow and the assets in the fund continue to appreciate with farmland asset appreciation, imagine 2 years from now the fund is at 200 million in net asset value. They've issued now 130,000 total shares, which now the unit price for that is now $1,538 per unit. This is all just illustrative and an example of how this works, but this is essentially how your value, your asset will continue to appreciate over time as the fund continues to appreciate. But it's based on the value of the assets underlying it. So as far, it's if you like farmland, if you want to stay invested into it, once you exchange, you're not giving up future asset appreciation. You're going to keep enjoying the appreciation that farmland has had and will continue to have in the future. One thing I wanted to highlight here is, and what we kind of tailored this webinar for is, really wanted to highlight to brokers and managers, if you're a farm manager and you bring in a deal or you have a client that you're currently managing or you're brokering a deal, our commitment is if you bring us a deal, that farm manager is going to retain the right or be the farm manager of choice to keep managing that acres, which we think would be a tool for farm managers to, as you see land potentially changing hands, that's always a risk that you could lose those acres under management. If a 721 exchange is the right option, we could do that for that client and you stay on as the farm manager and protect your portfolio there. Also, from a broker's standpoint, if there's some land that maybe it's not the right option for them to sell because they don't want to pay the capital gains, but they need to do something to set up a different structure for their family, or they got looking to exit farming, the fee structure for a 721 exchange works exactly the same way as it would for a broker deal. So if you have a deal that you bring in, there's commissions that are earned on these transactions, just like it would be with a cash sale. So we really see it as a tool for for brokers and managers to earn more fee income and keep acres under management. And we'd love to partner with you guys in any way possible to help, add value to the clients that you guys are using and serving in this capacity. So that's right. We're right at the 20-minute mark, which was what our goal was. Here's my contact information and Eric's contact information. We would really like to, there's no fee or cost associated with having a conversation or looking at deals. Every deal that comes in, we model it out. We determine the price that we could offer for that farm, and work to understand what price can we offer, what's the cash rental rate. We look at all the analysis that we would if we were doing a cash equity deal on our farmland fund. But we would love to have conversations about deals that you think you may have clients where this 721 exchange may work, and model stuff out, and we'd love to partner with you guys on stuff. So with that, we would love to get some questions or feedback, or anything that you guys may want to know. We can get into some Q&A.
Maybe in the meantime, I don't know, do we have any questions on there so far, Ethan?
I don't think so.
Nope, we don't.
So if not, why
yet.
don't maybe go through what our current pipeline looks like right now, maybe some of the deals that we're looking at, different scenarios that we're seeing so far. Maybe that'd be helpful just to shine a little light on what we're bringing in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, our pipeline right now is it's as big as it has been since we started this fund at the beginning of the year. So it's a really exciting time to see deals hit the pipeline and start to make offers on some of these properties for the 720 exchange. But just some examples. One example is pretty traditional with what I just said. There's a deal in Southwest Nebraska. The two brothers, one brother lives in Colorado, is not on the farm. The other brother is on the farm in Nebraska with his son farming it. The brother in Colorado, they inherited different pieces of ground. So the dad, let's say he had 2,000 acres. One sibling got 1,000 and the other sibling got 1,000. Well, the one that lives offsite, the dad's now passed away, and he doesn't want to own the land anymore. He wants to cash out, but the brother cannot. He offered up, to sell it to the brother, but the brother, based on his current financial situation, can't purchase the ground from him, and he doesn't want to sell it. And he doesn't want his brother to sell it to anyone else. So he's kind of stuck because he doesn't want to upset his brother by selling it, but he's ready to cash out. So what he's interested in doing is doing a 721 exchange on it, putting it into the fund, establishing his farming brother and nephew as the exclusive tenants on the property. And then that gets him out. Now he receives his share of the units. I think this is a smaller deal. I think it's about 1.3 million. And then he can stay on, he can retain those units and stay invested and get the dividend income off of it. But probably more than likely over the next couple of years, he's planning on liquidating those units and creating a cash event for that. And then his brother will also retain the first right to repurchase that ground in the future. So that's one example. Another deal, a much larger deal, came from a farm management company in the Midwest. They've been brokering a deal for a while now and haven't had a lot of traction on it. It's a larger deal, several $1 million. Won't get into all the exact specifics of it, but several $1 million. The family is looking to exit the farming operation. This is a situation where they haven't been successful selling the farm. So we just made an offer for the Farmland Fund for doing a 721 exchange. And that farm manager is motivated because it's a large farm for him. If this deal gets done, they retain their acres that they get to manage, and they also get the broker fees on it as well. So that's a pretty exciting deal. We also have a few deals in the South that we're working on and have just made offers on as well. So I'd say our total pipeline right now, firm pipeline, is right at 75 million. And then we have another deals that I wouldn't put them in the pipeline just yet as far as a firm pipeline, but that we're, having conversations with and trying to get structures on it. So yeah, really excited about our current pipeline.
Yeah, and I'll just give one other example. We have another family in Northern Illinois that there's 3 siblings, and they were ready to go sell. I got a call from a farm manager in Illinois there that was working with the family. And when they went to their CPA and found out that if they sold it, they're going to be paying between capital gains and estate taxes almost 40% of the value of the farm. That's when they asked, is there anything else we can do? They called us, and we're going to be looking at that deal as well. But just another example of how a 721 exchange can defer those capital gains. And in this situation, the siblings can, if they wanted to liquidate or sell after a year holding those units, they certainly can, or they can trickle them out. They can sell a few maybe 1 year, and so just kind of help reduce that initial blunt of the capital gains tax, or they can gift them or pass them down to their heirs. So just another example. So a lot of different scenarios and situations. Ethan mentioned a little bit ago, my background has been in the auction and brokerage side of farmland for several years, and I saw it so many times where farm families were torn apart with this gift that they were given. It was passed down to them. We're sitting on sale day, and I'm seeing a sibling in one corner of the room and one in another, and they just don't get along anymore. So the very last thing that I think their parents would have wanted to see. So this was a gift that was passed down. So anyway, we just saw this over and over again. Thought there has to be a solution. We studied and looked into the 721 exchange and how it could work, and then we established this fund. So just excited to have it as a tool for brokers and managers to present to their clients as a possible solution, and for them to again retain and grow their business as well. So Ethan, I don't know if we have any other questions.
Looks like we do not. So unless there's any questions.
I did pull off the mute function, so if someone did want to unmute and ask a question, feel free to do so. But yeah, I guess I'll go back and put up our contact information. I know we're getting close to the 30-minute mark and didn't really want to go much over 30 minutes, but if anyone has examples or questions, feel free to email us or flip us some questions. And, we'd be happy to work with y'all and figure out solutions for your clients. So with that, Eric, Amy, if you guys are
No, I think that's it. Well, we just appreciate everybody's participation here today. We did record this webinar, and so we'll kick that back out to you, so you have that recording to go back and review if you'd like. And then just to reiterate Ethan and what he said, feel free to give either one of us a call if you have a situation or a client that you think this might be a possibility for. We'd love to look into it with you and see if it's something that would work. So just appreciate everybody coming on, and we look forward to hopefully visiting and working with you guys in the future.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for the time.